Hello, folks. I'm CreatoriousRex, and we are back with the Twin this week in NFT news. And what a week it's been. And today I have a special guest with me, and that is Roger Kibbe, the Kibster.
Well, thanks, Brett. It has been a very exciting and interesting and challenging week, so to speak.
The Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times, right? People think it's like the Chinese blessing, or just like, no, it's a curse. These times are interesting, but they are full of curses, depending on who you are, because we have heard about some people who were shorting the market and seem to do just fine. But this is the roller coaster of NFT land. Okay, everybody, we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to go start with market data and the market meltdown, because why not? That's the top story of the week. We're going to go into a little bit on marketplaces, actually just one. We're going to talk a little bit about Instagram, and they've got two announcements this week. And boy, it's a big marketplace. They've been kind of anti-NFT. They're not really tied into Web3, but they made an announcement this week that ties them into that a little bit more. So we'll talk about that. And let's see, we're going to talk about some projects. Well, how could we not talk about Aoki? We'll call that the ugly, the good, the bad, the ugly. The good, we'll do VeeFriends. VeeCon's coming up, so they announced a few things. We'll just talk about that very briefly, because there'll be a lot more next week on that. Doodles Dooplicator, I thought, was kind of interesting. There's some parallels to things that have come in the past, and we'll just hit brands and NFT lands pretty quickly. I have a couple examples for you. That's always popular to see what the big moneyed interests are doing in this space, pushing their brands into Web3. Okay, Kibster, let's get right into it.
Sounds good.
The market meltdown. Oh, no. Okay, so what do we have here? This is 1 year. And if you look at that red line, that's the Ethereum pricing. And you can see it like all the way to the left. And that is the price in US dollar value. So Ethereum hit a peak around mid-October at 4,800. And it's hit a couple troughs. We'll look at that in a second. Now, the yellow is actually the Bitcoin to Ethereum price. You can see over on the right, that's where that breaks out. So right now, Ethereum is trading at about 0.069 Bitcoin for one Ethereum. Okay. So I overlay these because, okay, this is kind of interesting. Most people are only looking at the right-hand side of that screen. Crash. And there's a couple of things that are interesting here. So since last November, Ethereum and Bitcoin have been very close to parallel. They've been, except for the last month or so, where Bitcoin is actually did a little bit better and then sort of crashed at the same rate, or not quite the same rate, but similar to Ethereum. But I think the other notable thing that I'll point out here is that trough that we're at on May 13th, May 12th, I think what this chart is from, is not as low as the trough from last June. That might make you feel good that the trough isn't as low. If you're an optimist and think it's about to go back up, it might make you a pessimist if you think that it's about to go lower because it wants to meet the old trough. But Roger, when you look at this chart, how do you feel?
Well, let's see. So I used to pay a lot more attention to kind of technical analysis, more in the stock market than that. And I look back that you see like a clear double bottom last in the summer. So what I think is the bulls are going to try to keep, I don't know what that low is, somewhere below 2,000. I can't read the chart exactly, but it may bounce. I don't know if today's little bounce is kind of a dead cat bounce or going to be sustained. Wouldn't be surprised if it's a dead cat bounce. You got to watch that low though back there, because if it drops below that, I'd say watch out below. So
what's a dead cat bounce?
Dead cat bounce is when stocks, crypto, anything is extremely oversold. There's a bounce, right? So it looks really bullish, and then it actually fades away and makes a new low afterwards. It's just a matter of being completely oversold and kind of an overreaction. A lot of short covering often. And then it bounces back up, but then it goes lower right away.
Well, we sort of, I mean, I don't think I would characterize it as that, but if you look at that period between November and call it end of January or beginning of January, we see a bunch of drops followed by a slight rise, by a
Mhm.
drop to a new low, to a rise, to another drop, and then way down. Obviously we finished the year in pretty bearish territory. Not as bearish as we are today because we went back up again, but we see that you might actually look at that as a double bounce too. What we saw at the end of December, and then again at the end of February, and then we had a nice rise. I mean, all of a sudden, like it was mid-February, through March into early April, looking pretty positive, and then a steady decline followed by the bottom falling out the last 7 days.
Yep. Let's see what happens. I mean, a class you asked dead cat bounce. Look at that back that double bottom in between.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much a dead cat bounce, right? It bounced up and then went straight back down to its low again.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens. This is not, the interesting thing about this is we don't have this on here, but I'll bet you if you took a stock market overlay in this, it would just be, there's
Just not as
high
much
correlation. It's just like it's like one of those ETFs that's like 3x leveraged. I'll bet you follow pretty close to that, actually. It's like a leveraged investment in the stock market, which is a little disappointing to people. Because I think a lot of people see or hope that crypto will be, a hedge against market investing. And I don't have the data in front of me, but it sure feels like they're correlated.
It's a new asset class, but that doesn't mean it's a completely, what would we say, untethered asset class. To have a little fun with terminology here, asset classes are all somewhat related, right? Just like NFTs are an asset class, which have an interesting relationship with Ethereum, mostly some of the other crypto, but mostly Ethereum. Yes, I think that's very interesting. Okay, so let's look at something else that I thought was kind of interesting. Here's the daily on OpenSea. And so we can see, basically that high is other side. So the biggest anomaly. So it was so big, it carried basically through the weekend, and then you just look at by Monday, it was back to a still high, but sort of a normal for the last 3 months. And then we saw a sharp decline, a little bit of a pickup, which I think was mostly panic selling. And then a decline in terms of total ETH volume, which is reflective of a couple things. So first of all, there's two factors coming in here. When we're looking at daily ETH volume, that's going to be impacted by the number of items sold. It's also going to be impacted by the price of Ethereum on that day, and then the nature of the items sold. So the panic selling, I think we're going to see is certainly it was across the board, but ETH was going down, so that's going to mitigate how high these things were. So the transaction volumes when we pull those up, not today, but another time, I think we're going to see that the transaction volumes were actually much higher than you would have expected based on total ETH trade. And I suspect what's happening is a lot of the below blue chip have been sold off more because they had lower total prices. But there's been some blue chip sell-offs too, which we'll see in just a minute. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was just thinking. So funny. I was looking at the below blue chips. I'll call them the mid cap, so to speak. Things like Cool Cats, Gutter Cats, World of Women, NFT World. So those are things that sat around 10-ish ETH, right? So they're all been cut in half. Pretty much across the board, they've been cut in half. So they are not doing well. I think some of the blue chips, aside from the pump, like what you saw with particularly like Mutant Apes, like they doubled in like a week or two and then went back down to where they were. But those it seems like the blue chips are holding okay. But if you're not a blue chip, there's been a lot of challenges.
Well, I think what we see is the halving. All these the mid tier, the mid caps have been coming down. Most of them anyway. Doodles may be like counter cyclical, but they're coming down. But they're in their ETH floor price. But it's at the same time you're seeing Ethereum come down. So it's like a double hit. So they're much cheaper than they were recently.
They are, and that's interesting because last year, we basically saw when Ethereum pumped, NFTs went in a bit of a bear market. They're kind of inversely related, right?
Yes.
And then, so, which makes somewhat sense if you think about pricing them in fiat currency, right? As Ethereum pumped, people kind of lowered the price to make it kind of the same price in fiat. And as Ethereum died, people raised the price to make it. But that hasn't happened. Like, as you know, with this crash, everything's crashed. Not only,
That's right.
yeah. So that kind of interesting inverse correlation, we were talking about correlation earlier that we saw last year, has not been happening this year. So you're right. It is a heck of a lot cheaper to buy just about anything right now.
That's right. And we talked about this in office hours. So for those of you who don't know, in the Niftorian Discord, we have office hours for artists who are in the NFT space. And so they come in and just ask any question. So some of them have established collections. Some of them are new, have new collections. Some of them don't have a collection out yet, but they have a wide range of questions. And we all together in the room, try to answer the questions as best we can. So sometimes they're technical questions easily. You just say, hey, here's the answer. Other times there's things like, hey, do investors think in ETH or do they think in USD? And two people on the stage are like, I just talked to an investor and they say, don't reprice based on USD because I think in ETH. And I had to break it to them. I was like, yes, there's a few people that do that. And I kind of do that myself, but it's the minority. You're talking about a much larger market than the people that you were talking to. Most people are still looking at that USD price. And that's just going to be a fact of the matter for several years.
Completely. Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think people, I mean, I tend to think of it that way too. And unfortunately, what available capital I had was sitting in ETH. So it wasn't very useful. Would have been darn great if it had been sitting in fiat currency of the last,
yeah, if you just had it in USDC.
Yeah, not UST.
No, not UST, but it's I think you shared the thing from Vitalik. We said, we've got these 3 stable coins. That should be more than enough. And UST was not among the 3 he mentioned.
So UST, I was just looking at it. It's down to 19 cents.
Oh, so that's a dead cat bounce because I think they had it back up to 60, didn't they?
I think they did. And then Luna, right, which is its pair, right? It's this complex algorithm.
Yeah.
Is down. It's 2/100ths of a penny. So I'm going to share the worst investment I've ever made. Like 2 days ago, I looked at Luna and I said, you know what? It's $1. It's down 99%. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy a couple grand worth of Luna. That's now worth pennies. It's not going to kill me. It's not enough money to like make a huge difference. But that was just a dumb investment because it went down 99%. To like from 100 to $1.
Went down another 99%.
And then it went down another 99%.
2 orders, yeah.
So it went down 2 orders of magnitude. Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, no, that's more than 2 orders of magnitude.
Yeah. 100 times 100, yeah. 3-4 orders of magnitude, whatever orders of magnitude.
Well, orders of magnitude are kind of squirrely when you go down.
And they took the blockchain down, the Terra blockchain down. I heard it was back up now, but to stop the madness, I just, that feels dead. And something like the value that was 18 billion. So there's a lot of, and people really like that because they went and used the Anchor protocol and quote unquote, we're getting a safe 20% return.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that 20%,
there ain't no safe 20% return on anything.
Buyer beware, right? So like I've been staking looks because they just gave us a bunch of looks. So I was just like, I'll just stake it. And I've been getting all sorts of looks, but looks has just been cratering in terms of price. And so I'm at best even. I'm probably now this week, I'm sure I'm down. I don't look at it that closely because it was free money. So I was just like, I've been staking it. And I was like, oh yeah. So definitely would have been better off selling it right when I got it. And then if I wanted looks, I could buy it later and I could stake it. But, I think people don't think about the idea of the principal actually being reduced. And that's the biggest risk that you have. It's also the biggest risk if you're collecting NFTs that you have. Because there's a lot of NFTs with different types of staking and some DeFi. But if the principal price of that NFT goes down, it will blow away all of your gains very quickly.
Well, and people thought UST. I mean, it's supposed to be a stable coin. It's supposed to sit at $1, right? Like some of it's, Tether and these things. And you can get. I mean, I know that you can stake Tether or put it and get 6 or 8%, which is actually pretty darn good. Actually, way better than that. But they thought, 20%. I think because the old maxim, when it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Right?
Well, but I think in a lot of places, if you think about, well, maybe why was this too good to be true? Because there's plenty of DeFi opportunities that are much larger than that.
Yep.
90%, 120%, those types of things. So 20% seems like you're being
it's a stable
conservative.
Coin. But it's
right.
a stable coin. It's double or triple what other stable coins were giving you.
Right.
Right. And so that's where it's like, and then it was this, and I don't fully understand this algorithmically pair trade between the two.
Yes.
They kept it there instead of reserves. Right. Some of the other stable coins are supposed to, although I know there's some controversy about this, but actually have dollar reserves behind their coin. So they really can't have what happened to UST happen. But I don't know. It's a wake up call to the, when things get really crazy and I'll say interesting to our opening comment, maybe they are a little interesting and crazy things are going to happen.
Well, in the U.S. Congress this week, there was some discussion about stable coins and requiring dollar backing at a much higher rate. And so like 2/3 or higher of the total float. Because there's some sense that those stable coins are actually important now to the overall economy. And so they want to get their regulatory hands in there. And if you look at something like USDC, I think they're close to whatever people would be suggesting anyway. But, UST is different, but then we have USTC. Is that what's Tether?
I can't remember. Is Tether UST? I can't remember.
USTD or USTC. But Tether is sort of between UST and USDC, and they had their own problem. There's just 5 months ago. Mm-hmm. So let's look at let's bring this back to the NFT space, and if you can see this on the screen, we see some interesting things going on here. It's just 7-day change. So first of all, the top one there and just look at that change one, it's got green and then mostly red and then a couple greens and reds. So Azuki is the top one, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But basically this is back up after being down. And by the way, this data is from Crypto Slam. And it's 7 days so it's basically the 6th to the 13th or to the 12th, probably the 5th to the 12th. Other side down 90% for other deeds. Holy cow. You wish you had sold 2, not one of those. Bored Ape Yacht Club down 65%. Now this is USD dollar. So you're talking about at least a third of this is based on the decrease in Ethereum price, probably, for the most part.
I think Bored Ape and Mutant, I think there was a lot of activity prior to the other side drop, right? And a lot of people buying them just to get the drop. And so this, in some cases, that doesn't surprise those two.
Yes.
Don't surprise me that the volume's gone way down because it was crazy, high volume, right? Before the other side drop, and now it's kind of stabilized a little bit, but the whole market's down. Aside from Azuki and a couple of mind blow on and art.
Yeah, like Azuki is down overall because they've had problems, which we'll talk about. But you see, like Art Blocks, they did a mint this week, so I think that's largely what's going on there.
Something high profile a fairly high profile artist or two did something on Art Blocks this week. So that
CryptoPunk's only down 16%, right? And that's not as heavily traded as some of these other. Mind blow on was one that you and I were not familiar with, but apparently it's a very popular Malaysian cartoon. Or is it Malaysian? Is that correct?
Was it Malaysian or Indonesian? I think it might have been Indonesian.
Actually, I think it's Indonesian. My mistake.
Yeah.
So Indonesian, he's got 12 million followers. He's got 3,000 comic strips online. This very popular on Naver line, as people would know. the social network in Asia, and that thing just killed it this week with 14 million. They just dropped. They've got a lot of buyers, a lot of transactions. So in any event, we'll just leave that. But what I would tell people, just a couple things on this. So first of all, everything's down. Your favorite's probably down too. Your bag's down. If you're a holder, it feels terrible. But if you were going to hold anyway, it actually doesn't matter until you're going to sell. Like if you need liquidity right now, if you're planning on selling, if you need cash to buy a new car or to pay your medical bills, okay, this is terrible. But if you're a holder, it's not that big a deal. And what I'm telling people who have projects out there right now is this might not be a bad time to be launching a new project because so many things are down. Now, it's going to be harder because the mentality is not going to be to accumulate. So that's going to be hard to get people to buy. But the people who do buy in, you're more likely to get a secular rise after you go out as opposed to someone doing a quick sell off of your piece.
Well, and it's a good time if you're a collector. It's a good time. You got to think of the Warren Buffett way. Everything's on sale. Right. Yes. And so if you are thinking of getting in NFTs, I'd argue this is a really good time. Now, even though sentiment is so negative and, the world's falling and Twitter would make you feel the world has fallen, but it's actually a great time to go and buy in. It reminds me a little bit of, what was it? September, October, right? When there was that bear market and things. And that's when, like a mutant ape what's that?
It was painful. To watch.
Painful, but you can buy a mutant ape for like 3.5 ETH, right?
Yeah.
And so it was really painful. But if you went in, then you did really well. So I think it's a pretty good time to go in. Now that doesn't mean it's not going to go down further. But you got to think of, if you're an investor, this is way better than it was a week ago or a month ago.
But I think what you want to say, Roger, is this is not financial advice.
Oh, this is not financial advice. Yes.
Because
if you were an investor and you were thinking about this,
right?
It might be a good, interesting time to look.
We're analysts,
not financial advice.
We're analysts in this space, to the sense that we look at it and we have opinions, and we're sharing those here. It very well could go down further, but like what I tell people is, I say, listen, it still could go down further, but you've already captured some of the loss, or some of the loss is already gone. So your downside risk is lower than it would have been before. You can still go down, and then it's going to be easier for you to make gains if these go up. Now, this is also individual project oriented. So there are some projects that just cratered that are not coming back, and you just have to be aware of that. Just like, don't buy Luna at $1 after the 99%.
Really? Thank you.
Because it's going down to 1 penny, or it could go down to 1 penny, total loss. But and getting into some projects you missed out on, this is might be the perfect opportunity.
What's the old saying about investments are the only place people get upset when things go on sale? So.
Oh, right. Yes,
right.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move on from that. Let's talk about, I put this in the marketplaces category, but because it's about selling NFTs. Do you know who this guy is?
I don't. Should I?
It's Adam Mosseri, who oversees Instagram and a bunch of growth stuff. He's one of the, should I say, capo of the Facebook family. Okay. And the last time you may have heard Adam Mosseri, he was talking about how they changed the algorithm. And by the way, you're not going to 100% of your followers aren't going to see your Instagram posts anymore, unless they're videos, but maybe not then even. But you should do more videos. And by the way, you can get more exposure for your Instagram posts by advertising, which sounds very much like Facebook pages, company pages back in 2013. In any event, he's back, and NFTs on Instagram, really interesting. There are a couple announcements that they've done. So first of all, they're going to support NFT sales on Instagram. So there's a really interesting nuance here that nobody's talking about, which we will. But there are a lot of artists and then a lot of influencers who might want to get in the NFT game, as far as membership tokens and those types of things, who have really big followings there. And that is the best way for them to do it. They might be also selling other goods through Instagram, because Instagram enables commerce. Kind of interesting. It's been a NFT desert. In fact, there's probably more negative sentiment around NFTs on Instagram than pretty much anywhere else that I've been. But it looks like it's coming, and it's probably be a good opportunity for a few of the people there.
Yeah, I mean, most artists spend an awful lot of time on Instagram now. Arguably, after what's the changes, maybe too much time, but that's still, it's kind of if you're an artist, it's kind of de rigueur that you have an Instagram presence, and so they have a lot on Instagram. So I'm really curious about this, because done right, big question mark over my head when I say that. This could be really interesting. And an interesting platform to go and do this. If you see it and you like it, and it's on Instagram, why go to OpenSea or Object or anywhere else?
It's like buying it off your website. Just like
Yeah.
they're shilling a new shampoo and people can buy it, right.
Yeah.
Now right from the
less
listing.
clicks, right?
Absolutely.
The old e-commerce adage, right? The faster it is to get you to check out, the better. So
okay, so do you consider NFTs to be digital goods?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so now Instagram NFTs sold through Instagram. It's a mobile platform. Last time I checked, digital goods are charged 30% by the app stores.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Should we expect Google Play and the iOS App Store to be clipping some coupons here?
You brought that up, and I don't think anyone has talked about that. And it's digital goods. Now, it's paid for with crypto. Does that make a difference? I don't know.
It means it's not allowed to be done on Apple.
Yeah, is it even allowed? Right. So this is gonna be a challenge, right? And it could be sometimes these companies barrel ahead and then run into App Store. We've seen this many times.
App Store policy, for sure.
App Store policies, boom. They either it's a shock, or they have to retrench and rethink this and things. I was thinking about. I'm like, and this can't be just Instagram. I mean, Instagram you can use in the web, but I probably one of the few people who use it in the web, and like the 0.01% and things like that. But and it's a dumbed down interface, so it can't be
it's
just
terrible.
that.
It's terrible.
I don't think they can get away. I remember Amazon used to do this crazy thing. If you tried to rent a movie, it would pop out the web browser.
Yes.
And have you do it in the movie and then go back to the app until Apple shut that down completely and said, no, you can't do that. That's clever engineering, clever ways around what we're doing. So we'll have to see. That will be very, very interesting.
Yeah. I don't know what the answer is for it, but like nobody seems to be talking about it. So it like concerns me, because someone should have said, oh, it's not going to be, a 30% coupon. I mean, that's a lot more than that you would charge even on the, what's super rare, charge 15% or 12%.
15%.
Yeah. It's like, which everyone's like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Right. Yeah, it's a big number. And you think about gas, but maybe not gas, because another announcement came out this week around Instagram. They are going to support NFTs on the Flow blockchain, which I actually think is really interesting, because let's set artists aside. Mm-hmm. So artists might want to be on the Flow blockchain, but there's not really a lot of history of artists on the Flow blockchain. There are some, but what we know about is UFC, NBA Top Shot. We know about things that are not art centered. They're like experience, sports, brand centered. But so I think there is an art play here. But let's just think about this. So influencers, creators, as opposed to creatives, Flow might be perfect for them. Mm-hmm. Low transaction costs. It's basically just a token for membership, programmable, connected to your website. In this case, probably connect it to your Instagram account and maybe do some interesting things here. I don't know. It's interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see if Instagram and supporting Flow is, although I'm definitely bullish on Flow. It's NBA Top Shot. It's big brands that have used it, right? And I know the Flow team is really pushing to change that. And maybe this is the push that changes it over, right? This is a huge platform. Yes. That's going to support them. And that was the kind of the surprise. I think, what is it? It's ETH, Polygon, Solana, is it? Solana and Flow. And what are those four are different? it's definitely sorry about the phone in the background. It's definitely flow. That doesn't, what do these look different? And so I think it might be a really good opportunity for flow.
Well, what flow really needs is, I mean, something like this could get the creators and the people who are the influencers or doing videos, and they're really more community and oriented, the one-to-many type of creators. They really need something for artists. They really need like some central opportunity for artists to get involved, like that. Think about a lighthouse example. Otherwise, it's not obvious that artists would even know or care or pay attention to it, because there's so many other places that they're used to. Okay, so one other thing on Adam Mosseri here. I won't bring him back up. You guys already saw what he looked like, but he did another video just a couple of days ago. Actually, it might have been just yesterday. Avatars. So Instagram is going to support avatars. Why are avatars important, according to Adam Mosseri? Well, we're going to be in these 3D spaces, and you can't just have like a flat picture. If you want to be able to wear a different jacket or have a different shirt on or glasses or a hat. Now, he didn't mention pants, because there are no pants in Horizon Worlds, which is Meta's, Facebook's Metaverse. But I think that's really interesting that they're starting to pick off the different pieces.
Yeah. Well, surprise, surprise. A Meta-owned company is going to support avatars. So I mean, they're that doesn't surprise me. We'll see. And do you really want an avatar? And I don't know. Well, it's good to see synergy. Let's put it that way. I actually think it's good to see synergy across these big brands that do that. So nothing. It sounds like a overall small positive.
Yeah, and I think when I look at Instagram, first of all, they're sort of antithetical to what most of the things that are going on in Web3. And the existing Web3 community around NFTs, I think, is pretty anti-Meta and even Instagram at this point. But that's the community that's here now. There's a whole bunch of other people that will be moving into this space who might not harbor those resentments because they come to Web3 NFTs with a different perspective. And so I try to be neutral about it. And I think it is interesting that came out that they're going to support Ethereum and Polygon, and now Flow. So those are obviously old school Web3 properties that they're saying they're going to integrate with. So that's going to be really important. And it sort of goes back to something Ilya Gilfenbein from InWorld told me. He said his view is that all of the platforms, the metaverses, are going to have an incentive to support integration with other chains, with other marketplaces, with other places where they create assets. Because otherwise, if they just create these citadels, these walled gardens, it's people like the users are going to get frustrated if they have to have a different identity in one place where everywhere else they can be the same identity.
It strikes me, Brett, is that's good for the de minimis gas market. So Flow. We didn't mention Tezos, and I don't know if much is happening there, but Solana, because if you're going to move assets from one chain to another. So, for instance, if you like a POAP, I think it's in the XDAI blockchain, you can move it to Ethereum, but it's crazy. It's like $100 worth of gas. Like nobody ever does it, right? And that seems excessively expensive to me. But if you're going to move these things around and have interoperability among these different blockchains, that is a lot easier to do when it's a few pennies to move something than when it's
not even like I'm not even thinking about moving. Like I think just the being able to interrogate assets on different chains and then using that to be able to render, to acquire, to have special features, etc.
So that's not kind of bullish. I'd say that's bullish for the chains that are maybe a little less used, less known.
Yeah.
Because now a bunch of people are going to have to integrate with them. And so now it becomes more, there's all kinds of great things about Ethereum, but Ethereum is on top of NFTs and that, because it was really the first place people did it, right? And so some of these chains struggle to get that volume. Maybe this will drive some more volume to them, and I'll be really, really good for them.
Yes, but there's not going to be 50 of them.
No, there will not be 50 of them. Maybe this will consolidate them too. So,
absolutely, there's going to be some fall off, and everyone should look for that. Not financial advice.
Well,
all right.
Sorry, I have to. Did you see the clip from Do Kwon saying that 95% of coins are going to fail? It was from like 2 weeks. Do Kwon, the UST.
Yeah, I know who he is.
95% of coins are going to fail, and it's kind of fun to watch them fail. It's like, I just a little comment on that. I am so sorry for all the people who lost a bunch of money. I am so sorry, but there's a lot of negative sentiment because that he's a douchebag. Like, just sorry, but there's no polite way to put it.
This is a great segue to another douchebag, Zagabond. So Azuki, I think a lot of people probably know about this. Came out earlier this year. Was up over 20 ETH floor, really popular. You can see some of the art there, but we learned this week that Zagabond, one of the key founder, was part of 3 rug pulls in 2021. So Tendies, Crypto Funks, and Crypto Zunks. And Crypto Funks and Crypto Zunks, copycats, not a big fan of those anyway, but okay. And each of those were rug pulls. And then when he was challenged on it, he's just like, well, you have to understand in Web3, it's about learning. And I learned a lot. And now we're applying that to Azuki. Which didn't create any comfort for the people who lost all the value when they basically just ghosted everybody in those other places after they removed the ETH from the wallets. Now, since then there's been a little movement on this, but he has come back and tried to repair reputation, been a little bit contrite, talking about that we rise together, build together, grow together. I don't know. You mentioned douchebag. I think once a douchebag, always a douchebag. I like to give people second chances. But boy, this seems like a 4th chance to me. I don't know. Like, why should we think now? Actually, and I'll let you talk. They've done over, I think it's almost 700 million now, but it was close to 600 million just a few days ago in total secondary sales. Talk about that. You're talking about 30 million in secondary sales that they've done in addition to the initial drop. So he has a lot of incentive to try to keep that gravy train going. So I'm guessing he would do anything he needs to do to try to make this until it's time to pull the rug again.
That comment, well, it's a learning process. It struck me as, on the backs of individuals, right? I mean, if you took that, if you look at the startup world, and a lot of startups fail, and usually, okay, there's some early investors, and it's a bunch of angel investors and VCs, and they know the game. They know that 9 times out of 10, their money's going to blow up, but it's the 10th that's going to make back the other 9, right?
Yep.
But this was in the back of individual investors. So douchebag is your name. I don't know. I was looking at it. I was like, who the heck is buying this? And I did not use a tool. I was literally scrolling through. Yeah. And there was 2 or 3 wallet addresses that seemed to be just sweeping the floor hard. So I don't know who's sweeping the floor so hard.
Right now?
That was yesterday.
Yeah, a couple this week though. Yeah.
Yeah, this week and things. So I don't know who's sweeping the floor.
Well, it did come back up. It went down and then it's back up, I think, to 9 or 10.
I honestly wouldn't touch this project with a 10-foot pole just because I just don't,
Fool me once.
Yeah, exactly. Fool me twice, fool me 3 times, 4th time. Like,
yeah, I just don't. It's also just, you have to figure that everyone who's stayed in it now is going to be skeptical. And so what that means is the next shoe to drop, it's going to be like a hair trigger trying to get out of the project. I suspect some of the sharper ones are probably just hoping it'll inch up to 12 or 13 and then just get out.
I mean, maybe that's what some of that buying is, right? You could buy it up and then try to dump, pump and dump. right?
It could be their wallets too,
Yeah.
right? So someone who raised a bunch of money in other drops, and then walked away with the ETH that they did raise. They're the type of people who would come and sweep their own floor, not tell people they're doing that, and maybe do a little wash trading, make it look like there's something interesting going on. They strike me as the type of people who would know how to do that. Not that it's that hard to figure out, but I can imagine the war room they have. Okay, save Azuki. How do we do it? And they've got 4 pillars of their save process. First, contrition.
Yeah.
Second, cool roadmap. Third, let's do an airdrop. Fourth, let's fix the floor. Right? Then people will stop selling. So in any event. All right. So I think we've done enough on the Zuki, haven't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So good luck, folks, on that one. Just the opposite of this, Doodles, kind of a fun project. They announced a duplicator. People have been claiming those. I think about half of those have been claimed. If you owned a Doodle, you can get a duplicator. It's not clear exactly what this is going to be, but there's some sense that you might be able to make a mini Doodle, or although those already exist, because one of the copycats was like Doodle Kids. Or what was it, mini Doodles? I can't remember what they called it, but they had a mini of everything. It was so funny. But like, this strikes me as a similar mechanic to what we saw with serums for Bored Ape Yacht Club. Is this the next Bored Ape Yacht Club? What do you think?
So Doodles is one of my regrets, because I looked at Doodles when it was about 1 or 2, and I knew it was hot, and I was like, I just don't like the art. And now it's growing on me, so I kind of like it. It seems like you need to do this, right? You need to do a drop. Everybody who is a blue chip or has aspirations to do a blue chip is doing a drop of something mini. So this is interesting. So it's like a serum. So the whole gutter cat, the 4 different kind of gutter cat, gutter dog, gutter pigeons, etc. They just released like a serum like thing within the last month or so. So it seems like this is the tried and true formula to do this. So people love Doodles. This is probably going to do really well. There's a really positive community sentiment about Doodles. I can't say I don't own one. I've never been on the Discord. I don't know what it's like in the Discord, but I'm just saying on the Twitterverse, it's one of those projects that people just seem to really like.
Well, you can buy a duplicator now. I think they're at 3 or 4 ETH. So they were free airdrops. People are flipping for 3 or 4 ETH. That seems pretty good. Well, an ETH today isn't what it was 2 months ago, but it's still not bad. Particularly for a free airdrop. And I mean, I think we've seen that over and again. They're going to announce the details of this, I think, at NFT NYC. So that'll be June. So you got about a month. And we'll see what happens. I think they don't have as an extensive a roadmap as other people and things like that. But one of the things about these airdrops is, particularly something like this, where we think we're going to get more Doodle-like things, which will be part of the community. Just like mutants became part of the Bored Ape community, is it gives you a way to expand your user base without totally pissing off all of your early investors, your early collectors. Because at least they get something like this that they can just get 3, 4 ETH. And my guess is these are going to go up, leading up to NFT NYC. Maybe not, but if history would suggest yes, because you're going to get something out of it. And then we don't know the rules. But yeah, it's like, this is 10,000 enough to have a vibrant community. And maybe it depends on what you're trying to do, but it's not as helpful as having 30,000 in your community. Because like your critical mass of people who actually pay attention to what's going on and actually contribute to the community is a much smaller percentage. And so you can just raise that, and then the community gets much stronger as you do this. And so this is a way to, to get a second tier out there, and particularly if it's, when Doodles are expensive. So in any event, I think everyone's looking at this because largely it's a way to reward initial investors. and it's a way to expand your community. Although we've seen many times where it's backfired. So I think of Crypto Dads, for example, I wouldn't say necessarily backfired, but you had Crypto Moms came out, and essentially after the dust settled after that, a Crypto Dad plus a Crypto Mom was initially was basically what the Crypto Dad was, and then both of those have fallen for other reasons, I think. But
It's straight.
doesn't always go to the moon.
Yeah, it strikes, and that's hard to tell because Doodles have been part of this whole market crash too. They're not immune to anything, but you've seen that where the rumor or that comes out and they pump a little bit, and then it comes out, and then you'd often, if a dude, I'm not saying this happened with Doodles because I can't tell because they're part, but it was at 15 ETH the floor, and then the value of the child, so to speak, was 3 ETH. The floor would go down to 12, right? Like it stays the same. Like there's this equalization, or goes down. You're right. That happened with Crypto Dads and some other projects. Clearly not with Yuga Labs, but they've been, well, we'll see. The land drop is a little messy, but they've been pretty magical with everything they've touched.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I thought I would do. I guess this is just a fun story this week. This is the Steve Aoki curse. Steve Aoki is great. I think very highly of him. Very, very famous and successful entertainer. Very big NFT supporter, but someone has noticed that he's been getting into some of these high-profile projects at the top, and they tend to fall like within days of him buying in. So I think you look at this picture, I think we're going to be seeing Moonbirds. I think he bought in around 36, and then they dropped down to the low 20s shortly thereafter. That's a Mutinate Serum, that second picture. At 55, those are in the low 30s right now, if I remember correctly. And then Azuki, obviously, we just talked about Zagabond and the big rug pull. Well, no, not the rug pull. The fear of the rug pull, the outing, the whatever it is that happened with him. And so those are under 10. So so there's a bunch of people posting on Twitter saying, if Steve Aoki's in your project, sell immediately.
Short Steve Aoki's NFTs,
yeah, and I'm sure he's probably got a pretty killer wallet because he's got his own. He's got other things that I think he's done well with, but
I've heard this and other, not just NFTs, but like when the celebrities start getting in, it's time to get out, right? They're like top callers. Right.
Yeah, but he's not. This isn't like Justin Bieber getting in, right? He's like actually part of the NFT.
That's true.
Community.
That's true. He's not like the guy, the X who bought a Bored Ape, right? We've seen many people buy him. Here's
the concern I have. People do this and they just note, and some people may believe in it, but mostly people are doing it tongue in cheek. But then it becomes a thing.
Oh yeah.
And so then people actually start following it. So look out for that, folks. That might happen. All right. I think I just have a couple brands in NFT Lands here as we close out. Goose Island beer. I just did one kind of interesting. 3 tiers. I missed it. It was actually today. I was driving. But 3 tiers of NFTs with different types of utility and rarity. It didn't strike me as that novel, but one of the things they did do, which I do like, is it was $400 even for the mint, and it was random whether you got the rare ones or not, as opposed to like doing a 2-tier pricing or 3-tier pricing model. So that's always a way to like get people excited. Oh, maybe I'll get the rare one or something like that. So beer in the metaverse looks like it's going to be a big thing. Another one that I saw was Manchester City, and Puma just did something that stood out to me because, well, in part, it's not Manchester City's first drop, but Puma's starting to get more active because they just did a deal with Catblox, which I'm in, where every one of the Catblox holders are getting a hoodie shipped to them with special design. This Catblox plus Puma. It's actually a nice piece. You don't have to pay shipping. It's a nice program that they're doing. And now they're doing this one as well with Manchester City. which remembers their first Premier League win. So I think it's interesting. Puma's coming in like a little bit differently into the market than Adidas and Nike.
Yeah, it's interesting when I was thinking about craft beer and a soccer team, a football team, I'll say correctly, as a UK team. They have really passionate fans, right? And so that's a little bit different than some other brands that might be,
Right.
they're people like them, but these are ones where people are passionate. People care about their craft brew, and people really care about their football team. So this might be, I think, brands have been kind of middling success and things in the NFT world. I'll be interested to see these because I think the passionate fan base might be a better place to try NFT experiments with.
I think this is a much lower risk strategy than what
Mm-hmm.
Nike and Adidas are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, Nike and Adidas they have much bigger budgets for marketing, and they'll probably make it work. And I think they both are showing some signs of that. But yeah, I just thought it was very interesting along those lines, and I'm looking forward to my Puma Catblox hoodie, one of a kind. I claimed that last week. You claimed your tracksuit, I think, for
My Adidas tracksuit, and that. So we'll see. Brett, what you and I realized? We looked at the price. So there's like the Adidas #1,
phase one,
and Adidas #2, right? So when you claim the tracksuit, you burn your NFT #1. They give you NFT #2. And what was the difference in price? Was like
it was
about the price of a tracksuit.
It was $75. But I looked. That was yesterday. I looked just before we got on. It's $200 today.
Okay. So maybe there's a pretty efficient market going on here.
I don't know. Apparently,
which I don't think of an NFT world an efficient market, but okay, maybe the price of a tracksuit is $100 or $200. I don't know.
So the claim period is over in like another week or something like that. Isn't that correct?
Something like that. I thought it was this few days, but I'm not sure.
Okay, it's soon. So what happens to phase one after the claim period's over?
There's going to be phase 3. So my understanding, and I haven't fully followed this, is that there's going to be a phase 3,
right?
And phase 1 and phase 2s are eligible for phase 3. But I don't know. I don't know, and I haven't done. I don't know why you keep one. It's not. I mean, I guess if you thought the value is going to be higher, but if I'm looking at the value right now, I'd be like, oh, go ahead and get my tracksuit and get a 2.
And maybe in the future they'll do something to reward the people who held it. But you're right. It seems like if you burn it to go to phase 3, all you did was just like not get the physical good.
Yeah, you didn't. Which is a kind of. I mean, aside from the novelty of these things,
yeah,
it is the utility of these things, right? There's nothing to the NFT. I mean, it's an 1155. It's an addition of like.
Oh yes, you say
right?
that, but it's going to be into the universe. NFT is going to be used for allow lists, all sorts of other things that Adidas is doing. So if you think Adidas is going to do more things in the future, they've already indicated that it's going to be holding those tokens, even the phase 4, that will do that for them. At least, I mean, but they might then just like to do one more thing and then just put a new NFT out. Who knows?
Well, you remember they did a little partnership several months ago with Yuga, where you could dress up you could put a tracksuit on your ape or your mutant and things. Maybe they're going to do something more along that.
Did you do that?
I mean, it's just I think it's still live. Actually, you can still do it.
Oh, I didn't.
You can put it on there.
I sold my Adidas. So.
Oh,
I sold it a little early. I mean, actually, it's.
I don't. But in this case, you didn't need the Adidas. You just needed to own the. I'm not even sure you needed to own it. The ape or the mutant, and it would put a tracksuit over it, right? Like an Adidas with the Adidas logo on there.
Okay.
I think the website's still live. I mean, there's
so much stuff going on all the time. I can't keep track of it.
I can't keep track of it. I don't know. And then Sutton is here today and gone tomorrow.
That's right. All right. So the big news coming up this week, we'll just close on this unless you have anything else you want to talk about. So VeeFriends or VeeCon is going to be this week. Everyone can just go to the VeeFriends blog if you want to see. They've got listed out finally the the schedule, the agenda. So we knew speakers, but we didn't know when they were speaking. We didn't know how it was going to be broken up. So that's there. I know there's going to be a couple interesting meetups. I'm hoping that this will have, I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to be there. You know, maybe as big, maybe bigger than NFT NYC. I'm not clear on that, but it's going to be a big event. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting to see how Gary moves the market, if he does, what he's going to say next week. And they have a cool app for the event. They really thoughtful the way I set it up, really easy to connect your wallet to it, and verify your ticket. And then your ticket lives in the app. And then when you show up there, it actually pops up a QR code, which they can just then verify that you're a holder. So the innovation that they've done just around the logistics of using these for events is actually pretty impressive. So I'll be interested to see what it looks like on the ground. They just announced some musical acts and things like that. I'm not as interested in that because I'm going to be more there to meet people. But like anybody who's going to use these for events should look closely at what VeeCon is doing.
Right, because it's an NFT as your ticket, right? Which are on. I mean, a little late, but I think they're on OpenSea right now. You can go buy a VeeCon.
Oh, ticket. You can get one. Actually, it's better to buy them now. They've been dropping in price. So,
of course, as it gets closer and closer and closer.
Well,
I was thinking the arbitrage. If you don't open the VeeFriends, what you should do next year is make your hotel reservations, everything, and then wait till a few days before, right, to buy a ticket. But you know what strikes me is there is nothing better. A Gary V mention or pump of your project is like gold.
Yeah, because people trust him.
And so what is he going to, not so much a VeeFriends help something, but I'm talking Gary V going on his Twitter and talking about your project. So what effect is this going to have on the market and the projects that he talks about? It's certainly a good time for projects to get, there's some projects who could need a little love. So
I think he's going to give them a lot of love from the main stage, coming up, and people will pay attention to it. We'll see. It might be that that the V crowd, has done their own research at this point, and they know what they want to be in. And we have seen some Gary V recommendations that haven't done as well. So there is some of that, but generally there's quite a few that you'll get a good look. If he mentions you'll get a good look, and then you'll probably pump a little bit. And then the question is whether it's sustained and grows. That's a great point. I think we should look for that. The people are going to be on stage. Maybe they do get a little bit of love from Gary. I'm just going to be interested to see who's connecting with each other while we're there. All right, folks. I think that's enough for today. Roger Kibbe, at Roger Kibbe on the Twitter, the Kibster on Discord. You can find us both in the Niftorian Discord. Go to niftorian.com, hit join the Discord. If you're an artist, we got a lot of programs that we're doing. We're helping artists. We've got actually some really interesting stuff coming up, which I think artists are going to feel pretty good about. I think artists like free stuff, just like everybody else. So if you're an artist in particular, you should go. But other people are welcome. There's a lot of collectors in there as well. We do these office hours. In the Discord, there's a really vibrant community, and we have our second NFT Artist Accelerator already started, and that's another 20 artists from around the world. So they're all active in there right now. It's going to be a lot of really cool stuff coming up. Roger Kibbe, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brett. Always fun to talk and chat.
All right, thanks for filling in for Scott Leach. Scott Leach, come back. Scott Leach and I might be live from VeeCon next week. Let's see.
Ooh, there you go.
All right, folks. Till next week. Happy hunting.